Well, welcome everybody to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad you're with us to stay curious today with some great space shuttle stories with the one and only Terry White beside me. Hi, Terry.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Terry comes on once a month. He was a manager of the Orbital Processing Facilities, the OPFs,
Correct.
that we love calling the Shuttle Garage. So you're the head mechanic of the shuttle garages. You spent the entire shuttle era working for them from 1978 to 2011, right?
Correct. Yep.
In there. So great to have you back, Terry. How you been?
Oh, doing all right. Yeah. Staying busy.
Staying busy. You left your wife cleaning a hog
Yeah,
on your property.
my neighbors had to put down one of their hogs, and right before I was supposed to leave to come here. So
Your wife's name, tell
is
everybody.
Pat.
Pat,
So I
yeah.
set everything up. I said, "Do you want it?" And she says, "Yeah, I'll clean it." And I said, "Okay." So I left her skinning a hog.
But we've learned the whole White family here. Probably Rebecca's watching with the grandkids, and Travis is in Europe somewhere. Your
He's
son?
in Poland. Yeah.
He's in Poland. He's in the army. And was this his fifth tour over there somewhere? He did 4 tours and so
He did 2 in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq, and then he's done a bunch of TDYs to other places in Europe. But he's been in Poland since June. So
Well, we got room for your questions today, as we know you love listening to Terry. He's always bringing a briefcase in. So I said, Terry, what's in your briefcase? And he's got laid out here a whole bunch of shuttle tiles to tell us about stuff going on. Already Dave Stange saying hello, and Steve Jokums from the Lake County Spaceport on the shores of Fox Lake, Indiana, up there. That's on the shores of Lake Michigan. Carlton Bailey, good to see Carlton. He's keeping me abreast of what's going on with the hurricane that's rolling into the Panhandle. It's pushed back the Crew 9 launch from tomorrow to Saturday, no earlier than Saturday, about 1:15. Probably be pushed back to Sunday, I would think.
okay.
But yep, we got a wonderful Hurricane Helene hitting us. Not going to hit us directly, but we're going to get some wind. Probably not just be a rain and wind incident for us here. And so we'll see about that. Terry, we want to see you at our memorabilia show in November. We're going to be at Beachside Hotel. We're still working on an astronaut to do a book signing, but if you want space memorabilia for that space geek to put under the Christmas tree or birthdays or whatever, or something for yourself, we'll have a dozen vendors there. And a good time. Terry, I enjoy the fellowship, seeing the space community get together, and that's a big part of what
Yeah,
we
this is another one of those events that to go out there and
spend money for the
spend money,
museum.
but yeah, we get to talk to a lot of people that have had years experience in the space industry and other people that have a lot of memorabilia for sale.
So if you're local, come by and say hi to Terry. I see my daughter Jessica is watching with my granddaughters McKinley and Macy. Hey there, Mommy said she's a little under the weather, girls, so be good. They're 3 and 1, so
Okay.
you know what that's all about, Grandpa.
Yeah, they can't do anything wrong.
Right. I'm waiting for them to understand me a little bit, but they see Grandpa, and they're up there in Bristol, Tennessee, which is getting to a beautiful time of year up there.
This
With
this
the,
storm may be heading to them.
Oh, absolutely,
Yes.
yeah. This is a wicked storm that's going to hit almost a Hurricane 3, but maybe be a Hurricane 1 when it's in Georgia, and we hope Gary Gerald and he's on the east side of Georgia's okay, and Gary Allgaier, you're probably watching today, and hope you're going to be okay. He's in the northwest side of Georgia. William Whiting, thank you for wishing us a safe experience here on the Space Coast. My daughter Jessie says it's raining in Tennessee already. And Tommy Usiak is chiming in on there. So we got a great group here watching today, Terry. Again, our memorabilia show. We might have things from the UCX there that they send us there. Want to just tease that tomorrow we're talking about closing the museum out of prudence. But we're going to have Samantha Graham on here tomorrow. I talked to Samantha. She's a Floridian. Just said it's just a bunch of wind and rain. I'll be there. as long as the building doesn't knock down, and it won't. See that cute little sloth at the typewriter? That is her Space Coast Sam. She is a children's book educator, and we're looking forward to having a great conversation with Samantha Graham there tomorrow on Stay Curious. But we got to get to this guy first. There's Samantha there. She has spinal bifida. She talks about that since she was 16 years old. She's been in a wheelchair. And just every picture I've seen, she got a big smile on her face because she loves space. Also, there's her Space Coast Sam. Want to learn all about that. Looks like a sloth to me anyway. Those of you to get up early.
If she really loves space, she needs to get there one day because she wouldn't need the wheelchair to get around.
That's right, she would. And your legs are pretty much useless in space. Just to hook onto things,
Correct,
is all they want. There is a comet that will be fabulous in the evening of the second week of October, but right now you get up early the next 3 days. It is in the northeastern horizon. The sun rises about 7:15. So if you're looking around 6:15, 6 o'clock with binoculars or start taking pictures, this was taken in not Uruguay. I think it was maybe Uruguay, but that's about 15 pictures stacked on top of each other. Can't pronounce the name of it. We'll be talking about it all next week, but the next 3 mornings, and I hold up 4. The next 3 mornings are the time to get out and see it, and then it's going to drop back behind the sun, and then it'll pop up in the evening after sunset in about a week.
Other than the comet, that looks like this morning's sky here. It was a bright red sky this
Oh,
morning.
was it?
Yes.
Beautiful. I love it when that happens out there, particularly if you're beautiful on the ocean or something. Well, Terry, I got something to share here with you.
Okay.
Is surprise you with here. We have a suggestion from Patrick Adkins. Patrick Adkins is a social media influencer on many sites, and he said, he emailed me today and said, you ought to do a contest of who's got the best mustache of the shuttle era there. Excuse me. And he suggested you, Dick Covey, all right, 4-time astronaut, and Hoot Gibson, a 5-time
Dick Covey
astronaut.
was my boss too.
Was he?
Yeah.
And Bill Gerstmeyer there,
Yep.
and all have very distinguished mustaches, as yours is. So what do you think there? Dick Covey's got the classic, kind of thick, beyond the pencil, but nice and trimmed on there. And he was your boss?
Yeah. Yep. He was.
What position was that after his shuttle career?
I forget whether he was CEO or what his job was. But
on USA?
Yeah.
United Space Alliance.
Yeah.
I didn't look up his bio there. Now Hoot Gibson's got a classic, kind of almost Fu Manchu, but his is always sort of. Dick Covey's is pretty tame, pretty well kept all the time.
Covey's is pretty military.
Yeah, pretty military. There you go. Hoot Gibson, on the other hand, his kind of like a cowboy. He was named after a cowboy movie star, Hoot Gibson.
Yeah.
And
when I was a kid, we watched Hoot Gibson.
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't watch Hoot Gibson. I was Gene Autry.
Yeah.
We didn't know much about Hoot Gibson,
With
but
his
they were
horse
contemporaries.
champion, right? Gene
Yep.
Autry's horse was
Yeah,
champion.
and then Bill Gerstmeyer, y'all might not know. Well, you've seen him on NASA panels and so forth in the shuttle era. He was the Associate Administrator for Human Exploration and Operations for about 14 years.
Yes.
Did you have any dealings with him?
Yes, I did. I used to answer questions for him when he would come down and that. Yeah.
Arguably the most influential person when it came to U.S. space flight. Was he?
I don't know. I never got into conversations about it. He'd asked about particular things that were going on, and I would explain it and that.
Yeah.
But it was odd. He didn't know what a suit was.
A suit?
Yeah. But he showed up, and he didn't put his badge in the badge rack when he came in to OPF 3. And one of the quality guys going, whoa, you can't do that, And the guy looks, what? It's no, and he took him out there. He didn't know who Gerstmeyer was, and that took him back outside and said, no, you have to put your badge in the rack out here. That way we can account for you. And I forget who was with him. But he goes, yeah. And he goes, yeah, you suits don't know anything. And Gerskmeyer goes, what is a suit?
yeah,
The other guy explained to him, it's you guys who wear suits and ties and come in here and don't know
the
what's
suit.
going on.
Really?
Yeah.
He's an executive, didn't know that the nickname was
Yeah.
Suits there.
So then somebody explained to Crazy Ralph who these two guys were. He goes, oh, okay. Well, I said, you were right. You explained the rules to him. So
Yeah, well, that's interesting. A great guy, though.
Yes,
I've
he is.
enjoyed. He's actually well, now in a very important position at SpaceX. He is the vice president of build and flight reliability at SpaceX. Flight reliability, folks. They just launched one of their Falcon 9s on its 22nd mission.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable the reliability of these. I think they had that 1 second stage mess up in 238 flights, something like that. They've had one out of those 9 Merlin engines shut down. So Gerstenmaier, his well manicured mustache is one that I can't stand to grow over my lips. Okay. And by the way, we've got someone that says Grandpa's is the best mustache.
okay.
Thank you, kids. Thank you, kids. The grandkids there, my daughter. Yeah, I've always rocked a
yours.
mustache for about all my life. In fact, very few pictures do I even have since being 25 years old or something. Do I not have a mustache? You had a mustache a long time, my friend?
It's for about 45 years. maybe
45
longer.
years. Mine was nice and black itself and on there. I could put a little Dr. Fate twist on the edge of mine a time or two there. So
I've turned down $2,000 to cut it off.
you did?
Yes.
What's
That's
the
not enough
story of
money.
that?
Oh, there was people that had longer hair in the orbiter processing facility and that, and someone got up a collection and paid a couple $100 for them to cut their ponytail off and that, and they said, okay, well, we'll give you $1,000 to cut your mustache. I said, nope. And then the next day said, we'll give you $2,000 to cut your mustache. I said, the answer is still no. You need to go a lot higher than that.
That's how much money he was making as the manager of the OPFs there. That's cool, Terry. We're having a great conversation about mustaches. Marty's going to the UCAC family microphone there.
Dick Covey was initially he was the chief executive officer, then the executive vice president, and he wound up as chief or CEO and president of United Space Alliance.
That's what I thought. Yeah, CEO. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, great
Chief
guy.
executive. Yep.
Great guy there. Yeah, there's some other good mustaches out there for sure, and we may talk about a couple of them out there. These are 4 well-known ones there. Of course, you got. I think we'll see a picture with a couple others in there.
And Covey's another Vietnam veteran, so.
My daughter Jessie's saying that I picked her up from school one day without a mustache. She didn't recognize me. She's looking around and look, I've got your number here, the 148. That's your number. Come to my car, little girl. There, so. Well, God bless you, daughter, for watching that, and my grandkids watching. That's always special. So I'm going to post this on Facebook after our show, see what kind of reaction we get to that. Pat Atkins, thank you for that good idea there, and a good way for us to have fun on Stay Curious with a great guy, Terry, and you've got a good humidity day for your handlebars there today.
And Pat, you forgot to call me for your retirement party.
Oh, did you? You know Pat Atkins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Worked with him for years. So,
Yeah, I thought, and Pat, we hope to get involved with our museum some. He's very busy on other things on there.
He's not too busy for you. I'll remind him.
All right, good. Well, he'd be a good one to help us
He
out
would,
here.
yeah.
He's on Facebook. He does that. I need some help with that. So,
And he used to volunteer every Saturday morning with me at Atlantis.
oh, did he?
Yes.
Okay. You guys missed that, I know.
We do.
They're not doing the docents like they did out there, and that's not
It's sad for the public.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So, well, let's move on here to something even more fun. The Jetsons. I was telling you in our pre-production meeting here that 62 years ago, the Jetsons came on the scene. 62 years ago. They were supposed to be in the year 2062. They were 100 years in the future was the whole idea of that.
Yeah.
And here we are just 40 some years away from that. And my dad always says, "Where's those cars that we can park in your backyard, the helicopter, and take off?" So we have a lot of fun with that. I actually watched some cartoons last night. There's one of these rabbit ear stations. It's all cartoons, and I just like brain draining off that. And they had the Flintstones in the Jetsons world. That was kind of fun on there. Did you like the Jetsons? You remember?
I had younger brothers and sisters that watched them quite a
Okay.
bit. I didn't watch them a lot.
All right. Well, we got this hurricane going on, and I wanted to ask Terry, as we're looking at Hurricane Nicole there 2 years ago that did come up our way and do some damage. It's over Florida right now. You can't even see Florida because of it. That was a September 2022 storm. But look how far the technology's come, and this is 1964 in Cleo. And Cleo was a real bad hurricane, but that was our best image of it. And Terry, give us a little bit about the preparations during hurricanes at Kennedy Space Center. We've had a program or two on this before where, yes, there were shuttles that had to be pulled back, other rockets also. But you were there over 30 years. Yes. How did the technology increase from the early 80s to the mid 20s?
Well, as technology got better and we had more warning about the storms and that, and we could pattern where they were going based on previous storms, but we would start in May having meetings and going over what the plan was, what orbiters were going to be where, at the time.
You knew the manifest of what could be.
So what was there. And then we started doing the preps, getting all the equipment staged and that. And then depending on the severity of the storm and how close it was going to get here, then we started actually doing the preps and protecting the assets that it took to get a vehicle into space. Now, the orbiter processing facilities were built, just like the vehicle assembly building were built to withstand the hurricanes and that, but we still had to do a lot of preps to make sure that we did everything to ensure the vehicles were protected and the employees and that. And then we started doing the different things, including filling the transfer aisle of the VAB with critical equipment, vehicles and stuff like that. We would put them inside the building and that. Mm-hmm. And then if it got severe enough that we were evacuating the area, then we had ride-out crews that would go into my office and a couple of other offices in OPF 3, and actually technicians that would stay there throughout the storm and ride out the storm. And then here's a part of our organization charts showing who was responsible for OPF Bay 1 and then OPF 2, 3. Well, 1 took care of 1 and 2, but yeah. So we had people standing by on there, but we did all the prep work and responsible for that. And then in the case where we did evacuate the Space Center, then they started calling, and I was one of the first vehicles coming into the Space Center to look around before we would let anyone else come in. We had to do an initial safety evaluation before we started letting the right technicians in to recover what we needed to, and then the crews to come in and start to clean up and that. But yeah.
How many times did that happen?
Well, only one time in my career did we completely evacuate the Space Center.
Okay.
Yeah, but the other times...
Which storm was that? Do you remember? Put you on the spot there.
No, but I actually came to this building. It's the first time I ever left Merritt Island, but I came to this building right here.
At the American Space Museum building.
Yes, to ride out the storm. A friend of mine owned the building, and he said, so, got my mom and my sister, my mom and my wife and kids, and we came up here and rode the storm out here. And then as soon as the peak of it got by, then I went down and went on the convoy to go in and start evaluating that. It was a while before my wife could get back to our house, but yeah.
Yeah, this building used to be a records department. It's an historic building, part of our museum.
So it was built to withstand severe weather, so it was a safe place to ride out the storm.
That makes us feel better. Thank you.
Yes.
We're going to get some high winds, maybe up to 30 miles an hour tomorrow. Mostly tonight's when the high winds are going to be. And if it does get nasty, we'll let you know about canceling our guest Samantha Graham, but she wants to come tomorrow.
She'll be fine in this building.
That should be fine in this building. Now, you during this hurricane that you're talking about, I think, you got a call from Washington, D.C., and they wanted to know if everything was all right.
Yes, and they didn't believe just what we were telling them that everything is, so they wanted photographic evidence that it was all right. So I actually had to climb out on the structure out to the wing and show them this is the wing of, I think that's Endeavor, but I'm not really sure who was there at the storm, but climb out there, and they wanted somebody in the picture so they would know it was live, that it wasn't staged. So yeah, so climb out there and get a picture.
Send you a picture from a month ago
Yeah.
to get them off their back. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So it's
Well,
the
where's your
motivate-
newspaper headlines there to
yeah,
show it's
but
up
yeah. I didn't go get a newspaper before I came to work.
there. Couldn't afford it.
Yeah, so that's out over the right hand wing. So
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Well, anything else to add about hurricanes out there that just off the top of your head you was anecdotal or something?
No, our area has done an excellent job of avoiding, the way this part of Florida is, the storms tend to go by. We get
There
worse
is-
damage from the storms coming up the Gulf and then crossing across the state
Yeah.
and hitting us from the west side than we do from coming up there. But
There is a geographic anomaly, meteorologists say, about the little horn sticking out
Yes.
there, and how that, and very very rarely has there been a hurricane that slams into the East Coast and goes across east
yeah,
to
we
west.
had one a few years ago that went right up the coastline, but it stayed out at sea in that. But yeah, and so it was in October, and I remember it because I hunted through the storm.
Oh, okay.
I stayed out in the woods in a tree during the storm. So
Well, he's got laid out here a little science project of some of the tiles that we're gonna talk about. We love talking about the shuttles of September. 11 beautiful shuttles Terry flew in the month of September. We have you on every month actually, to talk about the shuttles. And 11 shuttles, and would you believe that Columbia and Challenger were shut out? Neither one of those, our first two vehicles, flew in the month of September. But of those 11 flights, Discovery had 4, Atlantis 4, and Endeavor 3 of them. Those are the A's, E's, and D's that I have on this chart that I put together. You had one TDRS mission deploying a satellite, but then none of them deployed satellites, which is what the shuttle was going to do.
correct.
In the 80s was basically you had 3 ISS hard hat missions and 5 science payloads. And but 65 people flew in the month of September, 5 of them women, 4 repeated. Waltz Reedy, our friend Terry Wilcutt, and Mark Lee, also out there at the Space Center, flew twice in the month of September. So as you see there, 2 dates had launches, shuttles share on them. The 9th of September had 64 and STS-115, and on the 12th was the launch date of 3 shuttles. STS-48 in 1991, and 47 a year later. We've talked about how the numbers get out of sequence. So 48 actually flew a year before 47, and then 51 was in 1993 there. So you had 91, 92, and 93, Terry. You launched a shuttle on the 12th of September, 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
That I know you have a hard time remembering dates and stuff like that because it all blends together. But does any of those stick out to you?
No, nothing jumps right out. 115 is something, but I can't recall what it was. So
115 was that was an ISS assembly.
okay, and then remember, post Challenger, they dropped a lot of the satellites out because the people who were putting the satellites up there didn't want to gamble on that. So NASA started flying more of their science missions than the
Absolutely.
because
And,
we still flew, customer payloads, but
well, September 29th was a big day in history for you in 1988, as that was the return to flight after Challenger disaster, of course. Any special pressure did you feel on your team at that time?
no, for us it was getting everything again, but everything ready again. But it was, it was more of making sure the booster, excuse me, was ready. And then we weren't having any incidents with that. Then it was the orbiter. We did a lot of modifications, but still.
Yeah, it was all about the boosters, the solid rocket boosters that had
Yes,
failed.
nothing orbiter-wise had caused the loss of Challenger. So.
Rick Hauk was the commander, and Dick Covey, two mustachioed guys there. We'll see a picture of them here in a second, because Carlton Bailey asked this question of you. He ran across this decal in his junk drawer, so to speak, loud and proud decal there. There's a some looking top cat looking cat, got a wild looking shirt on there, electrical switch.
After we'd done taken an orbiter offline for a while and done major electrical modifications in that, then a big event was the initial power up after all that electrical work. So a lot of checks and balances went into it. And I don't recall exactly why we started the loud and proud, but then it became an event for people to come in with their very loud Hawaiian style shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there was a period where we actually wore in the OPF, the technicians in that wore company shirts to work. They actually had uniforms to wear, but so.
Well, that was carried on with the crew of STS-27, 26, the return to flight. There they are. There's Hauk and in the center, and Covey in the right there. The other mustachioed guy is, I think that's Mike Lounge there. And you got Pinky Nelson in the back. Yeah, gosh, 4 of the guys got mustaches there. Hilmers is the other mustachioed astronaut there. So,
and the astronauts, when we did something like the loud and proud thing, they like to follow along with the same thing on their flight. So
yeah, I always think about packing their suitcase, so to speak. Well, make sure you got your loud and proud shirts, everybody, and that you can get them on the 3rd day up there, whatever up there. So thank you, Carlton, for that question. And I'm going to turn it over to Terry. He's got a little display here of some of the shuttle pile. Marty, you might even want to zoom down on here and look at all he has there. I find that interesting.
Well, they've constantly been asking me about what I carry in the briefcase and that. And so I used it out at the visitor center, and even when we're flying, used it in the orbiter processing facility to brief guests and that, because you can't touch the actual flight hardware. So in this case, this is one of the high temperature tiles. Now, the reason I'm wearing gloves is we had to handle all of these parts with gloves, because just the oils from your skin can leave residues on here that can cause things to get warm, get hotter than they're supposed to. So
really, because our 98-degree temperature,
yeah,
and
but
the
it's
ambient
just,
temperature is a lot less than that.
But just the oil sticks behind. But the tiles, they vary in thickness depending on how much heat they're going to see. Okay, so that is not one of the thickest ones. That's, I would call that an average tile. But the thickest ones on the ship are 4 inches thick, and this happens to be the thinnest tile off of the ship. It's only 1/4 of an inch thick. Now that one would go on the back of the forward reactionary control system, which is just forward of the windows. Okay, that
yeah, use this one there. Yeah. So
that tile, that thin one, would be actually located in this row, just forward of the windows, right across the back of the forward reactionary control system.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, and then one like this is one we built for testing after the Columbia incident. That one is about the thickness by the main landing gear doors, which is down in this area right here. So out at the leading edge of the wing, the tiles start out at 4 inches thick. When you get into the center, they're just over 1 inch thick. Up at the nose, they're 4 inches thick. As they go to the back, they get thinner. And then when they get back to the body flap, they're thick again, because that's the areas that see the most heat, is up by the nose, leading edge of the wings, and then back on the body flap when it's trailing, coming back in, the friction heat of reentry. So the tiles will withstand up to 2,300 degrees on what we call on the outer mold line, which is the top of the tile, but underneath where the structure is will not exceed 350 degrees.
Wow. Now, the numbering on there, everybody's seeing the numbers on there.
Yes. Okay, the VO70 indicates that that's a shuttle an orbiter part number. Okay. Then the next
So every orbital part number starts with VO70.
VO70, yeah. So then the next one is, and the top one you see, it says 391028. Okay, that tells me that is an assembly that's on the forward, by the 39 is the forward, and then the 1028 indicates that it's on the forward reactionary control system. Okay, and now the one below it that's a VT, so that means that is not a flight tile. That is one that was built for a test. So instead of VO, you have VT. Okay. And then it says 191037. That's indicating that would be in an area near the main landing gear doors. Okay. So it starts out at the forward as 39. Then it goes back on the payload bay doors. It's 397. On the vertical, it's 29. On the orbital maneuvering system, it's 396. So depending on where you're at on the orbiter, you can just tell by the part number where that's supposed to go.
Okay, now this gets the heat, the black part, but then as I turn it around,
okay,
you kind of have similar.
Yes, okay, and the thinner tile, that one actually flew into space, and what you see is the residue, the red, that's the remains of the glue that glued the strain isolator pad on. People don't realize it, but the tile is rigid.
Now this is the strain isolator
So
pad?
it won't move at all, but the aluminum or composite skin that it's bonded to flexes, expands, and contracts just like an aircraft does. So what we do is we glue this special pad to the back of the tile, then we glue the other side of the pad to the skin of the ship. So when you reach out there and touch the ship, you can actually move each one of those tile.
What kind of glue?
Room temperature vulcanizing, RTV, silicone adhesive. Okay. People use it outside. It's used throughout the space and aircraft industry, but for some people not in that type of business, it's similar to the forma gasket, and that it's not really the silicone like you caulk around your doors and windows, but it is similar. So it dries at room temperature.
Space flown. That's cool. All
Yep.
right. Yeah.
And this one came off of Endeavor.
Okay, and it's got the OV105 on it somewhere?
No, sir. It's got a 5 right there as part of its. It had a repair done to the tile, and we identified it had a repair, and that little 5 indicates that one was on on 105.
Huh. Amazing. All this information from these numbers, serial numbers there. Now, Terry, why didn't you use a barcode?
We tried that. That didn't work.
Okay.
Yeah. We tried identifying with a barcode net, but it's put on there as part of the manufacture of the tile. And these are smaller. Most of the numbering on the tiles are 1 inch in size. Okay.
Now, what do you have there, my
Okay.
friend?
Well, I have another one. There's all kinds of different shapes of the tile depending on where they go on the ship and that. But the tile material is extremely soft. So if you turn that around, that is the part that is really protecting you from the heat. That is called LI 900. The LI stands for Lockheed Insulation because that is who came up with the tiles. Okay, they came up with them before Apollo, but the Apollo capsules got higher heat than the 2300 degrees that the tile maxed out. But the tile material is extremely soft, and it'll be hard for me to show you with the glove on, but you can see where I've been rubbing on this, but you see I rub it with my finger and the tile material comes right away.
It's like chalk.
Like chalk, yes.
Wow.
And extremely lightweight. That one weighs 9 pounds per cubic foot of material. So a 12 by 12 by 12, it only weighs 9 pounds. So it's 94% air.
Yeah.
Yep. So now we have different weights of tiles, and the weight is the strength. We have 8-pound tiles, 9-pound, 12. The majority are 9-pound. We have 12-pound, 18-pound, and we have 22-pound per cubic foot. Those are really dense, hard tiles, and those are the ones we use around the crew hatch, the landing gear, and the leading edge of the wing. The tiles that see the most stress are the strongest tiles, but again, they are heavier.
Over 30,000 tiles.
Well, Columbia was originally built, had over 32,000 tiles. The other orbiters, at their last counts, 102 had been modified and it only had 29,000 tile. 103 had 26,000, 104 had 25,653, and 105 had 25,644.
That's a good stat to have.
Yep.
And I know of those almost 30,000 tiles, you probably know about where that one goes, I would guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I have to look at the part number to see where it goes. So, okay, this one would go,
We're out on the orbiter here.
okay, right alongside the forward. Right there we have, just in this black area right here, we have the thing called the air data probe. So on re-entry, as they're coming back in, there is a door that cycles and a probe comes out, and it's got the PDOT tube on it that's picking up all the information once they're down to a lower altitude. And
Wow.
this one goes, it's a 391036, so it goes on the area of the air data probe.
Very
So
interesting.
you give me a
here.
part number, I can tell you where it goes.
That's amazing. That's some good. Keep remembering those numbers, and you won't get Alzheimer's on there. We're enjoying a conversation once a month with Terry White. He's got a little display here. Terry's always got this briefcase with him because you give so many talks at
Yep.
places like that. It's your grab and go kit. And I said, Terry, let's just show you what's in your kit today.
And one other thing that really interests people, especially the kids when I'm doing presentations in that, is the tile, like I said earlier, is 94% air. Okay, when we build the tile, before we ever put it on the ship, we would waterproof it, because we don't fly in rain, but out at the runway we could get rained on after landing, and out at the pad we're definitely getting rained on before launch of that. But the original designers thought that waterproofing was good for 100 flights. That's what an orbiter was built for. That's what a tile's built for. Okay, turns out the heat of reentry was baking the waterproofing out of the tile, and we were getting water inside, and then on launch, as the orbiter was going up, that water would expand and actually break pieces out of the tile.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah,
So
so-
it expand because it's
Yeah, it's turning to steam and
Steam,
expanding.
yeah.
Yeah. So
the friction of
yep.
the against the atmosphere.
So
heat.
when we discovered that, we had to come up with a method to re-waterproof the tiles before we could leave the orbiter processing facility. So the first times we did it with Scotch Guard, the same stuff you go buy at the store and you spray on your upholstery or your shoes or anything you want to waterproof. But we literally sprayed thousands of cases of Scotch Guard on the tile.
Out of one can, or did you get like a weed eater sprayer? Or something
Nope,
like that?
we used the cans. We used a K bottle with a pressurized bottle to help push the spray up, because most of it was being sprayed overhead and that. But so on a tile like this, we would spray a 1-inch strip down all the way across the tile, and then we would spray all the way around the tile down in the gaps to coat the sidewalls, and we had to do that to all 29,000 tile on the ship.
I believe I can see that.
No, this one was never re-waterproofed.
Oh,
That
okay.
one never flew, so it'd have to fly to bake the waterproofing out. But yeah, so we did that for several flights, and then they came up with a solution called dimethyl ethyl silicate that we could actually inject into the tile. And we purposely made a hole through the coating of the tile. Then we would use a needleless injection gun under pressure. I don't know if you've ever had a shot with a needleless gun, but no needle goes into your skin, that just shoots the stuff right into you. Yeah, Marty's had a bunch of those. So
Okay.
yeah, that's how the military gave shots. So any rate, so we'd do that, and it would expand right through the tile, and the tile would be waterproof. Now, some of the larger tiles, they would actually have like 4 places on there that they would inject. And the reason is because if you get rained on, that water is heavy. Okay, this is nothing more than some pieces of the tile without coating on. You see how nice and lightweight that is.
Look at that flaking
Yeah,
off.
here, this has got a little bit of water in it.
Oh, that is heavier.
And that
Appreciably heavier.
thing's not full.
Yeah.
It will still hold more water. So yeah, we could potentially pick up so much weight that it would impact launch. Plus, we would have that expanding that. So it was very important that we get all of the tiles re-waterproofed.
This is like holding a marshmallow. Truly,
Yeah.
that size, a marshmallow weighs as much as this almost 2-inch square there.
And even though this one is heavier, it's not full. It'll still hold more water.
He's squirting water in there. Folks.
Can you see the
Yeah,
water?
Yeah.
Can you see the water?
Yeah. Absorbing it. It's like a sponge.
Yep. So it's not full, and they really like the water. They won't just draw moisture out of the air, but if they get rained on, they'll hold the water.
Huh. It's really cool. There's Yeah, now and now it feels like a rock
Yeah.
instead of a marshmallow. It
Yep.
feels like more a weighty
You
rock.
see all the water I put in this one already?
Yeah.
And it's still not very heavy, is it?
No,
yeah.
no, this one's got
Yeah,
half.
it will
That's
hold
half.
almost their entire volume in water because, like I said, it's 94% air.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, people are really amazed at how much water one could hold. It's hard to see, but yeah.
Yeah, that's absorbing every bit of that water there, Terry. You get a good close up look of his
Yeah, and it is water.
shuttle tail gunner hat.
It
there,
is
Jim.
water.
Okay, good. Yeah. Terry's hat is go in there for
Yeah. Yeah, my brother found this, so it's a space shuttle tail gunner hat. So
I love that. We put that on Facebook before on there. So let's see, we got any questions out there? Terry, Gary Gerald's asking, what temperature could the thermal blankets withstand? So we're talking about the blankets now.
okay, we were
Not
just
the,
looking at the tiles. So Columbia had, like I said, almost 32,000 tile because it wasn't built with the flexible insulation blanket. Hard to see how they got that name, right?
Right.
But yeah, so this basically is made of the same silica material that tiles made from, but it's in a fabric portion. But they withstand up to 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit, the same temperature that the white tile would withstand. Okay, and you can see the adhesive on the back of this one. So
It's like a cornhole bag there. to
yeah, well,
toss
yeah,
it
but we
there.
could install those in very large for blankets.
The
So
sewing on it,
Yep,
it's done
yep,
by your
yeah.
the 18 or 20
yeah.
seam.
So it took a
pieces.
lot less maintenance than the LRSI, the low temperature tile. So
Yeah, that was the shock to me seeing a shuttle up close for the first time at Atlantis. I'm going, it's got quote blankets all over it. You know what's up with that?
but
And,
again, it's in the area that the air flows across it. You don't have direct impact airflow into it and that, so it withstands it. But we flew the first ones on Challenger to prove they would work, and actually it tore the outer fabric. So after that, for the next time we tested them, we put a ceramic glaze on here just to stiffen the outer fabric, and the air flowed right across it just fine. So this is only on the upper surface and mostly parallel to the airflow. If it's going to get direct airflow coming into the orbiter, then it will have the low temperature tiles.
are the doors covered with this?
Yes. So all down through here is the flexible insulation blanket on portions of the forward, and then back here on the leading edge of the ohms pod are the white tiles, and then the rest of it is pretty much covered with the flexible blanket.
And
And the vertical stabilizer is all covered with blankets.
Dave Stangy's asking, do they use the same type of tile on the spy plane, the X-37B mini shuttle?
I've never been up close to the X-37, but I assume they do. But they do use the same type of tile on the other vehicles that they're building, that Lockheed's building, that Boeing's building, that SpaceX is building. So yeah, they use tiles on theirs. They don't use them on the bottom of their capsules because it sees more than 2,300 degrees. So they use the ablative material just like they did in Apollo. But then on the upper surfaces, they have the tiles.
Great. We got James Sumner's chimed in there. Hi to you, James. We love everybody watching. Please like, share, and tell people about our YouTube channel here. We've got over 700, over 800 of our, we're up to like 1,140 episodes, Terry. And you've been on almost a dozen of those, and we appreciate that.
And I was
We
lucky
got-
enough to be on number 1,000.
Yes, you were on 1,000.
So maybe I'll be around
That
for
was a
number
lot of fun.
2,000.
After about 2,000 episodes, we'll probably become an overnight sensation.
Okay.
That's what we're hoping.
You mean we're not already?
Anyway, you got some questions about the shuttle tile? Give them to us today. Tom Usek says, great show today. Having those tiles there instead of photos makes all the difference. So
Okay.
thank you. Yes.
And the other primary insulation on the outside, and this is the very top of the crew module, the top of the payload bay doors and that, this is called Frizzy. It stands for Felt Reusable Surface Insulation. It's a Nomex felt. It has an elastomer coating on the outside, but this is for areas that see less than 700 degrees. This is all over the top of the wings, and we can literally walk on this and it doesn't hurt it. All the rest of the TPS is too fragile.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is more like
And in some areas, we use just a single layer. Other areas we multi-layer it, and we would use thicker frizzy in
sweet.
those
So
areas.
it's just a double.
Yeah, we just
double
bond more than one
sandwich of it
layer
there.
to it, and then we bond it to the ship.
Now this frizzy's got a it's kind of got a mattress kind of feel to it in a way.
Yeah, like I say, it's a
Narrative.
Nomex felt. That's what my flight suit and Rebecca's flight suit was made out of. What military pilots and that it is. They use it for firefighting gear. They use it in all
Spongy,
kinds
it's
of
very spongy, very
applications.
pliable.
Yep.
And so this would be adhered to the
Skin of the
skin
ship,
of the ship.
and this would be the outside.
Okay. Nothing else didn't the frizzy.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. On the tiles, one thing that's talked about that is legendary are the spacers between the tiles, the gap filler.
Gap fillers, yeah. Yeah. So I didn't have the stuff to talk about gap fillers, but
But the gap filler was legendary. That Steve Smith pulled gap filler out of
Steve Robinson.
Steve Robinson. That's right. Pulled it out of STS 114, returned to flight, and handed it to you on the runway.
Yeah.
He had to do a special EVA for that. So this is the gap filler that goes in between the tile.
Yeah, in areas.
why is that
this
necessary?
Well, this is non-design, so we have areas where if the gap between the two tiles, there has to be a gap so that they can flex in that without hitting each other in that. But we still don't want the heat to get down. So this is a ceramic gap filler that goes in between. It's a fabric impregnated with a ceramic slurry, but then it goes down in between. And in the case of the ones he had to go out, two of them were sticking up, and we knew from the photographs that they weren't properly glued. You can see there's not much of a surface on that thing to get adhesive on and to get it to glue down between the tiles. So we knew that all he had to do was go out with his gloved hand and get it and pull it right out. Even though they came up with a tool to go attempt to do it, we said if he uses a tool, he'll cause more damage than he's fixing. So he just went out and pulled them right out.
So you had this gap filler sticking out, and it's in pictures of 114.
Yeah.
Eileen Collins doing the famous flip around in front of the ISS. Why was it dangerous to land with that? A 20-ton 200-ton spacecraft.
Well, what it
with,
is we used to use.
and the reentry would just burn it up.
Well,
But that's
no,
what
it
they
won't.
worried about.
No, well, see, we used to use one that was impregnated with RTV. This is the same fabric, but it's impregnated with the black adhesive. If that one was sticking up, the heat of reentry would actually burn it away. Okay. Now, this one being the ceramic on there,
Yeah.
it would not burn away. So
Oh.
now you have something on the outside that we call tripping the boundary layer. So as you're coming back in, the orbiter only peak heats for a few minutes. Okay. And if you have something sticking out, protruding, that starts tripping the boundary layer, it starts heating up sooner than it should. So I tell people, think of it as a batch of cookies. If the recipe says put them in the oven for 15 minutes at 350 degrees, and you'll be fine. If you put them in the oven at 20 minutes, even though you only said 350 degrees, what happens? You burn your cookies. Same as this. It's only supposed to peak heat for about 15 minutes on re-entry. If one's protruding and it starts tripping the boundary layer, starts heating up sooner, it's going to heat longer than it should. Plus, as it trips that boundary layer, the heat starts doing this coming down the ship, and it looks for a spot to get in somewhere else. And that's where we would have a burn on the elevon as a result of a gap filler or something at the forward that tripped the boundary layer.
Very fascinating there. Glad you're all learning something today. Tom Colbert's got a question, Marty.
Well, before that, Dave Stange has a question. What was the approximate size of the largest and smallest tile installed on the shuttle?
Well, the smallest tile we called the mouse hole tile because it was at the panel on the right side of the forward fuselage, and it was a tile about this size, and it was painted bright red, but that was the emergency. It probably won't show up on there, but it would be right up here on the side of the forward net. But it's for the crash rescue folks to blow the upper hatches to get the astronauts out in the event of a crash landing, like a gear up landing or something on the runway. So that little mouse hole tile, a firefighter would punch that, and it exposed a button. He pushed the button, a door would open, and he would pull a lanyard which I used to do as a crash rescue guy years ago, but pull the lanyard and blow the hatches to get them out. So that was the smallest tile. And then we had some on Columbia that were called finger tile, and they weren't but about 3.5 inches long and about 1.5 inches wide.
Where were those located?
Those were located along the edges of the payload bay doors and that, and we replaced those with the blankets and that. But yeah, so
What's the largest?
the largest tile are back on the body flap, and they are almost the size of my briefcase.
Really?
Not quite, but they are almost that big, and they're thick. And it's an area back there where we want to eliminate gap fillers. We didn't like the majority on the tiles on the ship are 6x6. Okay,
6x6.
That allows the flexing of the ship and that. But back there on the body flap, they wanted to minimize the number of gap fillers back there, and that, so they put these very big, and that's what we called them, the briefcase or the suitcase tiles.
Oh, the body flap's not on there.
No, it's no.
Right
It's
there.
not.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
body, I know enough to know there's not a body flap there. And when we go out and see Atlantis, and we love seeing Atlantis, and you look at the body flap, which is like this on the bottom of it there, what is the unique thing about the body flap that's on Atlantis?
It's Challenger's body flap.
It's Challenger's body flap.
Correct.
Now, how did that happen?
Okay, well, when we were processing Challenger and Atlantis was in California originally being built, we had the issue when I talked about the waterproofing and that, and we found out the waterproofing was affecting some of the adhesive on the ship. So we had to go out and remove 4,500 tile right before we were supposed to roll out to the pad. And one of the things was the body flap was covered with this thicker adhesive. And so we had to replace almost all of the tiles on the lower body flap. And the program decided, well, why don't we just go to California and get Atlantis' body flap, which is complete, bring it to KSC, send them Challenger's body flap. They can strip it, put all new tiles and stuff on it. We'll fly Atlantis' body flap on Challenger, and then when we get both of them back at the OPF at the same time, and we have time in our flow, then we'll swap body flaps, and each one will get their own back. So Atlantis is still sitting out there with Challenger's body flap on it.
And Challenger was destroyed with Atlantis' body flap
Correct.
on it.
Yep.
And now you know here. From,
And
Terry White.
very few people knew that. So
Wow. Go ahead with Tom Colbert's question there, Marty.
Okay, Tom is asking, did any tiles last from the first flight of an orbiter to its last without ever being removed?
yes, Atlantis has 85% of its tile on the ship are original. I didn't check into what the others are. I know Columbia had a lot because we took off tiles and went to the blankets on there. We never got that opportunity for Challenger and that. But yeah, each vehicle I would guess is more than 80% original.
And that is something that I learned with the tour with Mike Leinbach, launch director, and the ones that are replaced Tom Colbert are the dark tiles. But that's incredible that 30 Atlantis had how many flights? That it still flew with 85% of its tile. Atlantis there 104 33 flights. On there,
and when you see one or see a close-up picture one, you will see the new tile are nice and pristine black like this one. After they fly a few flights, then they start to take on that gray tint. And the tiles you see on the vehicle that look really gray in color instead of nice and sharp black, they are originals. They've got all 33 flights on them.
And what's so cool is you see the streak marks of the plasma on there that you said was very important in the first few flights to see
because the
pattern on there.
The original designers were wrong in some of their calculations as actually how the heat flow would do. And when we saw the outgassing, they thought, oh, wow. They thought it went at this angle and it was actually at that angle when they saw the heat mark. So,
your sister, Peggy Holbert, love all the information, so many variables. So,
yes.
Thank you for chiming in there, Peggy. Marty, go ahead.
As long as we're talking about tiles, Terry, why don't you talk about the orientation of the tiles?
That's why the Russians didn't fly theirs but once.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the orientation of the tile, most people want to know why, it's not just put on across, well,
Straight across. Yeah.
straight across. Well, if you lost
Like a
one,
checkerboard.
if you lost one, you would have that blunt effect. If you had the tile oriented, like this, you would have the airflow hitting that whole thing. So the majority of the tile on the ship set like this to the airflow.
Kind of a diamond.
So if you
direct.
lost a tile here, it would deflect off of a side instead of slamming into a flat side.
That's a good question there. Good explanation there. Cliff Watson's woke up in Pomona, Australia. He said, good to see Mr. Handlebars again. Good stories. And Connie McDaniel is one of our ACE volunteers. She and Anita Truex, our office manager, are watching and enjoying the information today. As always, Terry brings his A game, and why not? He was a person involved with the shuttle for over 30 years and one of the lead communicators in the shuttle era for VIPs and so forth. We've talked about that. John Borelli, hello to you. In New York. John's been on the show here. He's a good space geek and enjoys his time out in the great outdoors there in the state of New York.
Okay.
He's got a campground that he loves going to. John, good to see you, buddy. And we're not too bad here. He texted me this morning, good luck with the hurricane, and it's just going to be a nice, rainy, stormy situation like we've been having the whole month of August, it seems. I've done no stargazing because of the clouds at night.
So in New York, are the leaves starting to turn?
Yeah, leaves turning up there, John Borelli. Other wares are going in there. So we're ending our little program here with Terry White. You got a question, get it in there. We talked to Dave Stange, Steve Jokums, Carlton Bailey, Tom Usiak, my daughter Jessie, and my grandkids McKinley and Macy. Hi to you kids. Bill Whiting,
It's
Gary
not
Gerald.
one of the Bill Whitings I worked with, is it?
No. Bill's a Michigander.
Okay.
His Michigan State Spartans are going to host the Ohio State Buckeyes this weekend. We'll see how that goes. Gary Gerald's up there in Georgia. Tom Colbert, Dean Babcock, Doug Forrest, Terrence Sumner. James Sumner. We had Terrence Jacobus on there. Cliff Watson, John Borelli, Peggy Holbert, your sister, and Connie and Anita watching today. And they'll be outside the door getting a goodbye hug, I'm sure, when we end our program today. Let's see. Yes, John says the leaves are starting to turn up there in New York. So Cliff Watson says you can see the difference in the tiles on Discovery as you're closer to it. He's seen all three orbiters. Who was the manufacturer of the tiles? Asked Dean Babcock.
Lockheed.
Lockheed?
Yes. Yep. Lockheed
They were
Corporation.
over the tile shop?
Well, they built the majority of the tile for original build, okay, of a vehicle. Now, what we call the closeout tile, in other words, there's a bunch of tile that you install based on the computer and where they go in that. But then when you put up all these assemblies of tiles, then you have to do what we call the closeout tile, where two assemblies come together. You have to build a pattern and fit it to what the engineer wants, and then they build the tile from that pattern. And those were normally built by Rockwell. And then here, eventually USA got the ability to build tiles here at Kennedy Space Center, which saved us a lot because we would need a critical tile in the earlier days, and I would have to call and get an astronaut to fly to California, pick up a tile, and deliver it here to the runway so we could make rollout schedules. So
I've seen the tile shop, the pizza oven type of situation
Yes.
they have, that they actually put tongs and put them in there to
did they
heat
let
treat them.
you touch one of them?
No, well, I saw it in pictures.
Yeah, they'll take one of these out. Yeah,
Oh.
and I was trying to find my infrared thermometer so we could do it, but yeah, you can heat these things up to 2,000 degrees, take them out of the oven with the tongs, or reach down and pick them up with your hands, and they don't burn you while they're still glowing.
Right. You could have a welder's torch on the other side and you wouldn't feel it on there. The difference with this with water, this is like a marshmallow.
Yeah, don't do it with a wet one; it will burn you.
And that feels like a rock in my hand. That is holds a lot of water. as we saw there. Well,
And-
thank you, Terry.
And that's one of those things we did not realize until we experienced it.
Okay.
And then we had to come up with a solution of how to solve that problem.
And
So,
that was Scotch Guard.
Scotch Guard to start with, yeah.
And then they
and
injected the.
yeah, and the techs that did it, because we did it, I was a second shift supervisor at the time. We did it at the end of second shift and closed the hangar to everyone else and went in there with pallet loads of Scotch Guard and doing that. And at the end of the night, when the techs went home, they said, well, we don't have to worry about the bridge don't open. We could just walk across the water. We got so much Scotch Guard on it.
Yeah. They're waterproof for sure in there. Boy, the stock of 3M Scotch Guard must have gone up there for a spell there. Well, Terry, what a great program. The nice little show and tell. We love that. Doug Forrest has got a question, Marty.
Yeah, Doug is asking, why specifically did an astronaut have to go and get Kyle? Didn't that impact their schedule?
He's talking about flying the T-38 to go get
Yeah,
Tom.
but because of the time it took for normal transportation to deliver a tile from Sunnyvale, California to here, or from Palmdale, California to here, and go through all the processes where an astronaut could pick it up and fly it in here within a couple of hours, and I would have somebody meet him at the runway and we would have it in our hands days before we could ever get it through transportation.
Doug Forrest, I think, is asking, how did an astronaut have time to do that in their busy schedule?
Well, remember, there are a lot of side jobs that astronauts do, and they have to maintain a certain number of flight hours to stay current with flying. So they would fly things like that, which they enjoyed doing anyway, but it helped them maintain their amount of hours they had to have flying. But yeah, it wouldn't be one of the primary crew members now, but the astronauts used to fly around to a whole bunch of different companies that were building parts, and they would go in there and watch the operation. They did that back in Mercury, Gemini, Apollo. They would go to these different contractors and see what was going on. Marty knows all about that. So
Exactly. The astronauts that come to watch the work being done on the lunar module, we've told many good stories about those. Tom Celentano, glad that you're signing in today. Go back and check out the beginning of a excellent program as usual with Terry White. Not only is he so knowledgeable, he's so willing to help our museum, and we appreciate all that Terry does to promote us to everybody you talk to. I know you talk about us, and he's involved with our Shuttle Fest coming up in April, and you'll be hearing more about that as we start booking guests and astronauts for the April 12th Shuttle Fest coming up here. So 6 months from now, we got plenty of time for that. Terry, thanks a lot. Tom Celentano, you joined us late. Who's got the best mustache? All right. Terry White, Dick Covey, Hoot Gibson, or Bill Gerstmeyer there. And I'm going to put this up on Facebook after the show, Terry. We'll give you the results later there.
Okay.
All right. So thank you so much, my
Yes,
friend.
sir.
Appreciate you.
enjoyed the show.
Well, great. I enjoyed it too. We'll do another thing next month like this, talk about some aspect of the shuttle, and have Terry answer your questions there. So tomorrow we've got a beautiful program with this lady coming on here. There he is. Samantha Graham will be here. She's a children's author, just a bubbly personality, and can't wait to get her in here and talk about her little Space Coast Sam, the sloth there that is pecking at an old typewriter there. So thank you all for watching today. Thank you, Terry, for always being willing to do a Stay Curious program. I enjoyed a lot today and learned always something about our fabulous shuttle era that in 3 decades changed the way we live today. You better believe it. So until tomorrow, on behalf of the American Space Museum, I'm Mark Marquette saying we can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us.